have this muted. But I do know one thing is for sure. I don't have Satan's alibi for this book coming from that for what I consider the fourth supernatural being. So God's number one, Jesus number two, Holy Spirit's number three, Satan's number four. I don't have an alibi for number four. And number four in Luke 4:6, I think. It is 6. I will give you authority over all these kingdoms and all their glory, he said. For it has been relinquished to me, and I can give it to anyone I wish. So if you worship me, it will be all yours. Now, Jesus does not stand up and say, you know what, I've got more free will than you've got, so piss off. Does he say that? No. He just kind of says, do not put the Lord the God to test. Right? That's it. Now, that's not a yes. That's not a no. That's not a maybe. I'll think about it. It's just kind of inconclusive. But in the book of John, when Jesus is basically saying, hey, this is where I got my authority, it's the exact same lines as in Luke 4. And that's a problem if you're trying to prove that it didn't come from deception. The whole book is potentially orchestrated by a deceiver.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
Like,
that's not like an argument.
All right, good evening, folks. My name's Jimmy Tux. I'm going to be your host. I'm going to be simulcasting on Nidibus channel, Nitty, and I. And Nitty, you're more than welcome to jump on. I am Tux TV. You can call me Jimmy Tux. And you can find my channel at Jimmy Tux TV. I welcome you. That was a live stream earlier this week from B.S. Lewis. He was gracious enough to let me come on. And I got to share some things with P-Town. Now, the majority of this stream tonight is going to be because of that conversation there. And I played that because that's pretty much my stance. But I want you to notice that the Christian P-Town in this clip didn't come back and provide that alibi that I was looking for. There's a moment in which previous discussions have yielded that I believe that there is a similar scenario to what Jesus is called the light and Satan is called the light. And the first thing called good in the Holy Book is light. And that there's a battle of one entity splitting into two. And in that clip, it is kind of a maturing of that conversation. And all I've asked for from some of the apologists and Christians in this world is provide me simply that the Holy Bible is not deception. That you haven't fallen for some sort of trick, a deceiver's trick. And in that clip, I quote Luke 4, and that essentially is the temptation portion. And there's multiple times in the Holy Bible that Jesus is confronted with or being accused of being a part of a plot against him. And every single time, except for one, he uses some sort of metaphor to be as a part of his response. So I'm going to go through several things about the love of Jesus, because one of the follow-ups, one of the next questions, as soon as I hit pause here, is...
You
He
can't.
was making assertion like, "Oh, the Bible says the difference."
What
I'm
my
not equipped.
definition of love
I'm
is.
not equipped to even have a conversation.
How would you
You're
tell the
just
difference?
twisting everything.
No, how would you tell the difference between deception and the truth? Is the underlying question he's asking.
Look, if I don't even know what his point was, but
You're not
yes,
going to get it from the Bible.
tempted. Jesus was tempted. He was incarnated as man, because just to resemble that we are also tempted, that we're not supposed to get in the court with what the devil has to offer. We don't want to be a part of the world's ways and be corrupted by um, worldly things. I don't know. I do need to study the New Testament a little bit more, honestly, but I don't see your point, Tux, other than you don't believe in any of this, and yet you have this interpretation that the adversary wrote the whole thing. I feel like that's a giant contradiction.
Well, I think
Not
humans
so.
wrote it, but where did the inspiration... I mean, I've always heard that it was divine inspiration. Well, there's 4 divines. And if you're going to make a claim that it was any one of the 3 good guys, you also need to provide the alibi for the 4th one that's not the good guy. And here's the thing. There's a parable in this book about the leavening of the whole loaf. How much yeast raises the whole loaf? 1%, 2%, 10%? How much? How much if let's say I use those 4 supernatural beings, and 1/4 of the Bible came from the supernatural being that's the deceiver? Is the whole book then deception? And the answer is yes.
This is ridiculous. See,
It would also be fair to Piton. It'll also be fair to say that little bit of leaven was the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden. It was a perfectly good loaf, and then a little drop of evil was dropped in, and now we have this mess.
Typically, leaven's used to resemble pride and how it can puff up your pride.
No, typically the Bible in the New Testament, leaven is representative of sin, but it's also representative of the kingdom of heaven, and it's simultaneously used in 2 different parables, conjoining this to leaven.
Maybe so, but I'm going off my memory here, and it's typically a representation of pride.
So there it is, my friends. I just think that since P-Town wouldn't provide an alibi for my accused deceiver, and the accusing that Jesus and the deceiver are kind of in cahoots, potentially in cahoots, according to Scripture. And I would just like to remind you, in the conclusion of this book, it says that someday this deceiver is going to be thrown in a lake of fire after he's deceived everybody. It says that there's going to be a battle someday. In Revelations 12:9, there's going to be a battle someday. And that this guy that deceived the whole world, he's finally going to be taken care of. So that is my reference. The follow-up is in previous conversations about love. What is my definition of love? What does it mean to have Jesus' love in this world? And I don't have a good answer for that. I only have an answer for what I think it should be. Where'd my clip go? That's not it. I lost it. There it is. Let's share that screen instead. So it's in John 3:16, and I've touched on this previously about whether or not God in John 3:16, we could just change one word. And if that word is changed, then God, I believe, is no longer evil. And that is gave, changed it to hugged. And I say that because this is how you've been mentally conditioned to believe that this love between this amazing supernatural being and his son, a supernatural being and human, is somehow going to bring the world together in a positive way, in a non-deceptive way. And that's a problem that I have. I don't believe that it is love to go and murder your child for everybody, when you could just hug your child. When I hug my son and give him a smirk, I don't even need to say how much I love him. I can just put my arm around him and give him a smirk. That's it. I can just do the same thing with the shoulder touch. I don't need to murder anyone to display my affection, to sacrifice everything for the world. That sounds like a deceiver. That sounds like something that a deceiver would see how far he could go to get everybody to surround themselves around his evil literary use and deception of mankind. And all I'm doing is going to sound the alarms. It's all I want to do. I also want to make fun of Christians and their ability to say, you have a...
Matthew 22:30.
Ooh, that's too fast. Let's slow this down. So, hey, it's a one-man production crew here. I don't get paid for this, you know. I do this for the love of nothing. And hopefully, maybe, just maybe, I can prevent you from being deceived. So this is an apologist, John Piper. And Mr. Piper here gets very passionate. And I like him for a couple of reasons. He's one of the forefront and outspoken members of the Christian faith that speaks out against some of the hucksters amongst him. He's not willing to be shy about saying, hey, not all successes are good in this world. Hi, Mel. Hi, Vaguely Agnostic. Cameron. Ms. Lemon. Jay. Good evening, all. All right, I'm going to go to this clip.
Great commandment, Matthew 22:37. The first and great commandment is, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind. And other gospels say, and strength. So loving God with your heart and all that you are is the first and great demand of Jesus. And then in Matthew 10:37, it's interesting how these verses are rememberable, 22:37, 10:37. Whoever loves mother or father more than me is not worthy of me, Jesus says. Whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. So now you've got two powerful, deep, life-transforming commands. Love God the Father with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love Jesus more than you love children, more than you love parents, surely more than you love anything. And my question is, what should we think about those loves?
All right, what should we think about those loves? Now let's go back to my John 3:16. Let's think about these loves, right? Let me ask you, if God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Let me stop right there. Only begotten Son. God can only have one. He already blew his wad. That guy is clearly gone. He was supposed to come back in the first generation, didn't. They rewrote everything, in my opinion, and made a literary sacrifice out of a human being so that you, my friends, can have this kind of love that John is talking about. Now, in my opinion, the passion that I'm about to make fun of from John Piper here is worthy of worship under a scenario I have not seen. And if anybody in this world has ever seen it, I would love to see it make the 6 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news, be the cycle, the news cycle for the next month. Wars stop, everything stops. We all figure out what's really going on. I don't need my alibi that Satan really wrote this and is in league with your Jesus. I don't need it anymore because guess what? It's real. And that is a scenario in which Jesus taps John Piper on the shoulder and says, hey, come with me. And he drives down to the children's hospital. It's only a few miles away from where John Piper's ministry is. And seconds after they walk through the door, the children are healed. The children are running out of the place healed. The blind, the disabled, the cancered, all fleeing that hospital with glee and tears running down their parents' faces, chasing them. And before the press can even show up, John Piper's attitude looks as passionate as you're about to see. It's genuine. It's real. Because Jesus did what he said he was going to do. He was going to love us. So here's my plea to you as I play the next clip. This is what it looks like, and I shit you not, I have not altered these voices or anything, but before I continue on the video with John, I want to show you Bob Ufer, Michigan football, 1979. He was a very enthusiastic, but he just witnessed essentially a miracle play. So I want to play that for you instead.
At the 45, he goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Carter hands up. Look at those Wolverines. 95 Wolverines going to the end zone. Carter got the pass. In the air, it's done. Ufer is going out of his mind. I have never seen anything like this in all my 40 years of covering Michigan football. Anthony Carter, the human torpedo, got the pass. Bo Schembechler is looking up and he's looking up at Fielding H. Yost in football's Valhalla. And Bo Schembechler says, thank you, Fielding Yost. Thank you, Fielding Yost, for that one. Look at the crowd. You cannot believe it. Michigan throws a 45-yard touchdown pass. Johnny Wrangler to Anthony Carter will be heard until another 100 years of Michigan football is played. Right here it all happened. You're listening to it. I hope you can hear me because I've never been so happy in all my cotton picking 59 years. All I've seen, I have brought.
All right. So I hope you could understand that. I don't know, the quality of it is a bit old, but hopefully you understand the excitement, the genuine exuberance. It's warranted. It is what I would expect John Piper to sound like, because he's about to sound in the clip chastising somebody who is committing theological adultery. I take full responsibility that he's talking about me. So let's hear what he has to say about somebody like me who's asking for Christians to provide Satan's alibi, that Jesus isn't the deceiver. As ridiculous as you may think it sounds, all I'm asking for is Satan's alibi, that Satan and Jesus aren't all one and the same. Two beings, same name, or some variation of each other's alter ego.
Why is it that people with PhDs in theology commit adultery? They don't know God. You can read theology 10 hours a day, 40 years long, and not know God as beautiful, all satisfying, highest treasure of your life. Who cares about knowing God the way the devil knows God? He hates everybody. Knowledge of God helps him hate people. We're talking about knowing God here in 1 Thessalonians. They don't know God. They don't know God really as who he is, infinitely valuable, infinitely beautiful, infinitely satisfying, why your soul was made. There are more pleasures at his right hand, more eternal joys in his presence that you could have in 10,000 sexual trysts. The question is, do you know that? Because if you know that, sin will have lost its dominion in your life.
What would you do? What would you do if you go and you search in this world for the answers, and you're told that you're committing adultery for doing so, and when you ask a simple question of, help me, look for the answer, that this isn't deception. Your response is that is the devil's question. If the devil and the Jesus characters in a literary book that a lot of people worship from, if they're the same, it seems like it would be very hard to prove. It also seems like it'd be very hard to prove if there's just one supernatural being of the four that I mentioned. If that final supernatural being isn't accounted for, think about it. Think about it, the Christian. You have a choice. Provide that alibi or continue to be promised something in a future realm that you don't know exists. You accept it on faith. And someday you'll have a mission to go, rectify the situation that you found yourself in. You'll be shattered. You had all this love for something, and what did it get you? Make sure it's not deception. Make sure it's not deception. All right. Enough on that. I'm going to go back to this screen here. I'm going to let John preach to me a little more.
Looked right into the eyes of the Pharisees, the Jewish leaders, and said, if God were your father, you would love me. I mean, he's saying to the most religious, the most God-oriented, Old Testament-saturated people on the planet, you don't know him. He's not your father. In fact, he goes so far as to say, you're of their father, the devil. I mean, this is just mind-boggling. What's the litmus paper for knowing whether somebody is a lover of God? Answer, do they love Jesus? Do they embrace Jesus for who he really is? Not just some human teacher, not just some prophet alongside other prophets, but I am the Son of God. So that's the first one. John 8:42. What about John 5:42?
Here's the thing. One of my favorite things about John 8 is there are four things. Once again, we've got the number 4. We got 4 things. Jesus is accused in John 8 of being possessed by a demon. He's accused of being a demon. He's accused of being the devil. He's accused of being a Samaritan. Any one of those 4 things true, the house of cards of the Christian faith falls down flat on its face. Jesus is a fraud if any one of those 4 are true. Jesus is a deceiver if any one of those 4 things are true. Now, why is that? If he's a demon, if he's possessed by a demon, he's not the Son of God. If he's the devil, he's that alter ego of the good guy version of the bad guy. And if he's a Samaritan, that means he's not fully God and fully human, That means he's half Jew, half Gentile. Let's move along.
Is love mainly doing what Jesus said? So you love Jesus if you do what he said? Or is it and have to do with the heart and the affections? He said, if you love mother or father more than me, you're not worthy of me. You love son or daughter more than me, you're not worthy of me, which means he's thinking of the love of Jesus like the love of your children. Well, you don't love your children by doing what they say, right? They're your treasure. You would die for these children. They are precious to you. You won't sell them for billions and billions of dollars. Your children are your treasure. If Jesus isn't a better treasure, a higher treasure, you're not worthy of Jesus.
So you have to be all in on a deceiver, potentially. And I'm sorry if P-Town and Christians alike P-Town think that I'm too far gone and this is just conversation that is saved by, ignoring it instead of providing the actual alibi. If love looks like that, you have a problem if you've been deceived. You always have to shove your chips all in, whether you've got a good hand, bad hand, or otherwise.
John 14:15, if I remember correctly. John 14:15, which says, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. And I have so many people say to me, there, right there, it says so. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. There it is. Love is obedience. It's not feeling any particular thing for Jesus. It's just doing what he said. To which I respond, that's not what you just said it said. It says, if you love me, then you'll do this other thing called keeping my commandments. Loving Jesus is deep and foundational and transformative because you treasure him above all things. And then, because of that, you do all that he commanded. So my answer to the question, what's the nature of the love, is yes, of course it would include obedience, but it is not less than being transformed by a love of treasuring, admiring, delighting in, being satisfied by this most beautiful treasure of all, like Paul said in Philippians 3. I count everything as loss because of the surpassing value of knowing Jesus. Third.
Okay. Once again, is that the kind of love that an all-loving God, a good God, not an evil God, not a good and evil God, but a good God, is that the kind of love that we would see from a good God, a truly good God, the kind of God that hugged his son to show that he was giving it to the world? Is that the kind of love that son would show up every once in a while and tap John Piper on the shoulder and say, come with me, I got something. You're going to love this. You're going to love it so much. You're going to go to your church on Sunday and you're going to tell this story and you're going to sound like Bob Ufer seeing the most miracle-ridden play he has ever observed in his life and sound like this.
To Anthony Carter will be heard until another 100 years of Michigan football is played. Right here at Allhan, you're listening to it. I hope you can hear me because I've never been so happy in all my cotton picking 59 years. All I've seen, I have broadcast 347 ball games. I've never had one like this. The play.
Never had one like this. Imagine John Piper standing in front of his congregation on Sunday and saying, I have never had a Jesus experience like this. So I want to conclude a couple of things here. That wasn't supposed to come on. So I want to conclude with a Netflix documentary called Tinder Swindler. And the premise of this clip is a person who is pretending to be a billionaire's son is on Tinder with multiple identities, traveling around the world, essentially a Ponzi scheme of romance to friends and romantic interests alike. Once he gets them into his web, he extorts money from them, and they think that they are in love with him. He is not in love with them. They are in love with him. But that love is fake. It can be fake so easily. And it can be so desired, so fanatical. Just like John Piper's expression of love for his God, for his Jesus. And what happens when that rug is just completely pulled out? When the promise that you were going to be repaid for helping them turns out to be a fake check and fake money. What happens to the love that you were promised? What happens to the passion that you truly had for this person, but only one side of it was fake from a deceiver?
And they say that's the guy. Fuck shit, you know. What kind of name did he use? And then I said Simon Levive, and they said, well, that's one of many names that he's been using. Many names?
Many names. Many names he's been using. The literary function of the deceiver at the very beginning of your book. The many names he's been using. Does he go by the light? Does he go by the light of the world? What does Jesus go by? What is Jesus' actual name? In translation, it is in multiple arenas. Jesus and the Hasatan character have very similar references to light. It is hard to tell who is the light of the world. It's hard to tell if Satan can appear as an angel of light, according to the Bible. It's hard to tell which one is referred to as morning star. And it's hard to tell in Luke 4 when Lucifer says, or Satan says, hey, I've got the power and I can give it to whoever I choose. And he decides to give Jesus the tour. And I don't believe Jesus says no. He just speaks a metaphor. He's in the desert. He's weak, he's hungry. His alter ego is at its highest. The two are one and the same, and they go by many names, but they always come back to the light. Both of them. Many names. I'm going to play this clip because you're about to see the emotional pour out of somebody who wanted something to be true very, very much, but in an internet social networking way, got taken advantage of. The same way, an old style of taking advantage of people in a literary fashion started somewhere around 2,500 to 2,800 years ago and has been an evolution cycle ever since. It doesn't matter if you're in the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, or the Islamic faith. Every single Abrahamic religion has some variation of an agreement with the tempter, an agreement with the light.
James? Who is this guy I've been sharing the same bed with? He's a professional. He does this for a living. Everything's a lie. He's not a prince of diamonds. He's not the son of a billionaire. The man I love was never real. He faked everything. It was like horrible, you know. Because in a sense, I still loved him, you know? Or the person I thought that he was. Like, you know, everything's a lie. But then you still have this fairy tale that's going on your phone, you know? Simon with, like, still the heart behind it. Because I could never, like, I couldn't remove it. Because I still wanted him to be true, you know? I don't understand how someone can be so fucking evil. Because I still wanted him to be true, you know? I don't understand how someone can be so fucking evil. I felt that he knew me. True, you know? I don't understand how someone can be so fucking evil. I felt that he knew me.
And there it is. There it is, folks. This is why I ask for Satan's alibi in a book you believe is true. This evil person who conned this woman, who made her feel like she was in love, and don't diminish it just because it's, you know, a situation where she got, you know, she wanted that. She wanted it. Don't be fooled. Your book is the same as what tricked her. It's a story. Everybody says this is real. You're supposed to do this. And what's going to happen is at the end, when only one party was actually in love and the other one was seduced by something that was from evil, ask for the alibi. Alls I want to know is how many people actually called up, emailed, reached out in some form, or investigated whether this guy worked for the diamond company that he supposedly was there. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be tricked by this guy. I don't want to be tricked by this guy. I'm asking for Satan's alibi, and alls I want to do is get a resume in my hands, an investigative report in my hands. Jesus is who he says he is. Not going by multiple names, not being confronted by many different accusations of being in cahoots with Beelzebub and being possessed by a demon, being the devil, and being a Samaritan. The answer should be confidently no every single time. Every single time. Don't come back and tell me I'm the one that's crazy over here. The emperor's new clothes says he's naked. I'm not going to be the kid. I'm going to be the adult that stands up and yells, "He's naked!" The con men are the ones that sold you that invisible suit that doesn't actually exist. So that's my sermon today, folks. I'm going to leave you one more time with John 3:16. Because, boy, John 3:16 is powerful, I think, as a tool of, say, a guy like me. Because I think I want every single Christian right now, I want you to go outside and to prove God is real and that this book is true. I want you to go and look at the trees right now. Go find the section of trees closest to your house or wherever you are currently. Go out and look at those trees. And if you want to tell me that the complexity of God is proven in those trees, I want to use John 3:16 to say the innumerable amount of trees in this world should be how many sons? Instead of only begotten Son, the number of the trees is the number of sons. Supernatural beings, all God, all human, at any given time, who can go around and inspire John Piper to talk like Bob Ufer, seeing miracles at any given time. I leave you with my favorite loop. Let's change in this world. God gave to God hugged. Bowtie blessings to you all and to all. I thank you for watching and have a great night.